What is good, Double Leg fam? It is time for the Double Leg Premium exclusive show. We're going to go through all of our bets for UFC Vegas 82, get you a little bit of a breakdown on why we're taking these, and just some last-minute thoughts going into the fights. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Started with the main event. Paul Craig, Brendan Allen, what you got in the main event?
Yeah, so I think the grappling and jiu-jitsu could offset each other here, and I think Brendan Allen will have the striking advantage. I also think that Craig could slow down somewhere after that first round, start shooting some sloppy takedowns, and I could see Brendan Allen ended up on top, getting the KO or TKO in the second round at plus 800 or even the third round at plus 1400 to try to end the night on a bang. So those are my two bets on that fight. That's all I got for there.
Got it. And we'll save the DFS stuff to the end. So if you're looking for that, you can fast forward to the end and we'll give a slight breakdown there. But there's a lot of them that I got, so I won't go over too deeply. But for the main event, I got Allen by KO/TKO plus 125 for a half unit. Pretty much seeing the same thing there. I think he'll have the striking advantage. And on the ground, I know he's been subbing a lot of guys, but it's just like, why even try to? Because I think if you get Paul Craig to the ground, he's pretty easy to ground and pound, especially if you're inside control. So I think that's probably the route he'll go. And then I also got Brendan Allen in a parlay on the money line with Eileen Perez plus 101 for a unit there. Overall, I just think Brendan Allen gets it done. I think he's smart enough to not play around in the guard of Paul Craig. Co-main event: Michael Morales, Jake Matthews. What you got on that one?
Yeah, so for this one, I've got Morales in a parlay. Actually, I have him in there with Brendan Allen and Mick Parkin plus 102 for one unit. And, Jake Matthews could find the upset. I just couldn't. I don't know. He'd have to be like plus 500 for me to take him. I think Morales is going to start getting better and better each time out. And I think it's a fight he can take to deep waters if he wants and wins. So I had to put him in the parlay. Got to have some money on him.
Yeah, I think I didn't really like the money line price on Morales. I thought it was a little wide, but I do think he wins. I just don't really see a great path for Jake Matthews to get a win here. So I took Morales by KO or decision at minus 200. So they're buying it down a little bit from that like minus 300 plus at minus 200 for a unit. So we'll get a half unit back there if he pulls it off. And then I did a little crazy little parlay on Brito KO, Morales KO, and Allen KO plus 2015 for 0.1 units. So that hits, we're having a good night there. But that's all I got for the co-main event there. Jordan Levitt, Chase Hooper. What you got on that one?
Yeah, another one that was it was tempting to take Levitt for me here just because of how big of an underdog he is. And, he's had some decent finishes and wins, but ultimately, I went with the fight not to go the distance. I think Levitt, could even find a sub on Hooper. I think Hooper, if he gets taken down, he's so long and his dexterity is crazy. I think he could find a sub on Levitt. So, yeah, I took the fight not to go the distance in this one for 1.2 units at minus 120. Or, sorry, plus 105 for 1.5 units.
Yeah, I did the same thing, actually. I mean, you see these guys, you don't really expect like violence from them just looking at them, but a lot of their fights don't hit the scorecards. So I took it minus 110 for a unit there. Fight doesn't go the distance. And then I had Hooper by sub plus 425 for 0.25 units. I thought that number was just too big. I had to take a little sprinkle on that because Hooper has some nasty jiu-jitsu. In all reality, the fight probably hits the ground. And it'll be live there. So plus 425 was good enough for me to pull the trigger. Peyton Talbot, Nick Aguirre. What you got on that one?
Yeah, so for this one, I like Talbot to win in the second round or the third round. In the second round, actually, this is all one bet. So on FanDuel, you can do, first and second round, second and third. I took Talbot to win in round 2 or round 3 at plus 260 for a half unit. That way, I didn't think the odds single-handedly, like on each single round, were good enough to just place a unit here, a unit there. But mixing those together and still getting over plus 250, I thought was decent. So half unit plus 260. I think if he does finish the fight, it's in the second or third.
Yeah, I'm on the same thing, but I don't have FanDuel in Florida, so I had to take the rounds. I got Talbot round 2 at plus 300 for 0.25 units, round 3 at plus 500 for 0.25 units. I know they're not big, But I mean, in all reality, I think that's how the fight plays out. You know, sweat it out for 5 minutes, and then I think the pace takes over round 2 or 3. I think he gets it done. And then I also got the over 1.5 in that one at -175 for a unit. Talbot never had a first round finish. Aguirre, pretty tough based on his last couple of fights. So I think he'll be able to survive for 7.5 minutes, and then Talbot could take over, get the finish for us. That's all I got on that one. Then we got Amanda Hebos, Luana Pinheiro. What you got on that one?
Yeah, on Hivas and Pinero. So I almost took Hebos by decision, but there's just so many red flags in this fight. Hebos with the chin, she's fighting a girl who's got some pop. And then on Pinero's side, we've seen her almost give up in fights before. A split decision win over Michelle Watterson that was really close. Michelle Watterson hasn't won a fight in how many years? So ultimately, I decided just to stay away from this fight. I'll never be mad at myself for just not betting on it when I don't feel comfortable. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I got nothing either. I was maybe gonna play a Pinheiro by KO, but it was like plus 400 something. I didn't think that was enough. I mean, she's got a good amount of knockouts on her record, but I didn't think it was good enough, to play a women's strawweight KO at that price. So I laid off the entire way. We got Euros Medic and Mitebek Oralby. What you got on that one?
Yeah, this is another one I almost took Medic, but the line is so weird, man. I don't know what the hell is going on with the line. I expected Medic to be the favorite just because he's had a training camp. This dude's making his debut on 4 or 5 days notice. Didn't like it at all. But that line being -140, -150 for the newcomer, it's like, man, I think Vegas thinks he's going to win. Honestly, I think they're trying to tempt people with Medic as the underdog here. I think people are going to get bit in the ass, so I stayed off this one too.
Yeah, if I get bit in the ass, I'll get bit in the ass. But I had to take it. Medic money line plus 133 for a unit. I said on the breakdown, I thought he'd be like -200. So if that's the case, I think that's a valuable line. Whether it wins or loses, I think I'm getting a good price here on Medic. Full camp, more experience. He's shown he's a pretty damn good striker. So I had to take it. Plus money, I had to take it. Maybe I'll get trapped, but we'll find out on Saturday. Jonathan Pierce, Joe Anderson, Brito. What you got on that one?
Yeah, so I'm on Joe Anderson Brito on the money line for 1.5 units, and that is nope. That's all I got on this one. I like him to come in there and be the more dangerous guy. More ways to win. If Jonathan Pierce, we've seen him put himself in guillotines by Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez had him in some bad situations, cracked him on the feet. Like if Rodriguez was able to do that to him, I don't know why Brito wouldn't be able to. I think Rodriguez is a great fighter, but I think Brito is a more dangerous guy in the jiu-jitsu, in the striking, all of that. So his game is fucked to come out there and just throw hands too. So yeah, I expect this one to be a barn burner. I think Jonathan Pierce is going to be hanging on for dear life, and Brito is going to be trying to finish the fight. So I think that looks better to the judges, anyways.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. I took Brito money line plus 105 for a unit, and then I took Brito by KO plus 290 for 0.25 units. And then I said before I got him in the parlay for the big boy. But I just watched the film on Jonathan Pierce, and he's so hittable in some spots. He'll leave his hands down. And Brito hits you, you're going to feel it. And I would expect him to come out here pretty hot and try to put him away early. Don't let Jonathan Pierce get into a groove with the grappling. I think he puts the pressure on him early, and I honestly think he could get him out there pretty early too. So let's hope it hits. But Brito is the play for us. Chad and Hellinger, Jose Johnson. What you got on that one?
Yeah, so I actually took this fight. Does not go the distance either. Jose Johnson. I always say Jose, but Jose Johnson. Whenever you watch some of his knockouts, like he cracks and he can put dudes out in 15 seconds, just flatline. He has that kind of power. He's also longer. He's going to be 6-7 inches taller here. So I think he's live as hell for the finish. But you watch Ann Hellinger as well, and he's got a lot of wins, and he's tough for one. But he'll be there, if Jose somehow tires out, I think Ann Hellinger is going to be there, dangerous as well. So, yeah, give me this fight not to go the distance. I expect a lot of violence in this fight.
Yeah, I do too. And I have that in a DFS play. But for the straight bets, I took Johnson on the money line, -180 for a unit. took Johnson inside the distance at plus 160 for half a unit. And then I sprinkled a little bit on Jose Johnson by sub at plus 600 for 0.2 units. He's got a couple submission wins on his record. That's really been Anhellinger's downfall is the submission defense. And I think it could come back to bite him here because in all reality, like Jose Johnson is just going to be longer. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be faster. And I think Anhellinger is probably going to be forced to try to work on getting some takedowns. I think that could leave him exposed to a submission. So that's why I took the big plus 600 there on Johnson by sub. But overall, I just think he gets the win. I don't think Anhellinger is, he's 36. The fighters that he's fought in the UFC aren't that good whatsoever. I mean, his only win is Jesse Strader. Jesse Strader probably shouldn't have ever been in the UFC, and he took him 3 rounds to get him out of there. So I don't think he'll be in the UFC much longer, and I'm hoping I can capitalize on it here. Moving on, we got Christian Leroy Duncan and Dennis Tululin. What you got on that?
Yeah, nothing on this one either. I don't know. The line is crazy. I'm not going to play -4 or whatever. So, yeah, just laying off this one.
Yeah, same here. I'm just laying off. I mean, you'd like to take CLD, but -4, -500, it's not really worth it. And it's just kind of a weird matchup, like to take on this short notice too. So just laying off on that one. Mick Park and Kyle Machado. What you got on that one?
Yeah, so I got some plays on this one. First of all, I skipped over a parlay from earlier. I got Parkin and Kyle over 1.5 rounds in that fight, paired with Anhellinger and Jose. Oh, God damn it, Jose starts round 2. I think that at least gets past 1. That's -104 for 1.04 units. And then my lottery play of the week, the odds are plus 19,300. So if we hit this, it's straight to the bank. I got Mick Parkin KO. I got Anhellinger sub and Hooper sub. Now, this is just one of those things where crazy shit happens in MMA, the opposite of what you think is going to happen sometimes. So that's where the Anhellinger sub line came out of. But yeah, if I can get something like that to hit, it'll be fun. And then my other 2 plays on this fight, I got Parkin round 2 KO at plus 850 and Parkin round 3 KO at plus 1500. The more I watch film, the more I look at it, Parkin's going to be the better striker. He throws a lot of volume for a heavyweight. I think, he's been training with Aspinall. Those guys are going to elevate each other. I think he's going to get better every time out. Probably didn't like going to decision with Jamal Pogues in his last fight. I expect him to come out with a little more heat in this one. And I could see Kyle kind of getting tired towards the end.
Yeah, the only one I got on this one, I was debating whether or not to play it, but at this plus money, plus 160 for the fight to go the distance, I took it for a half unit. I mean, both these guys did really show much of a killer instinct in their last fight. Machado goes to a lot of decisions. And the guys he's putting out on the regional scene just aren't really good whatsoever. You could say the same thing about Mick Parkin, though, too. It's like the guys he's putting out on the regionals, they're not good. And then he goes up into the UFC and he fights Jamal Pogues, who isn't good either. And it was just like a sparring match. So both these guys showed that they're willing to engage in some type of sparring match. So I thought at plus 160, I took a shot at for a half unit for the fight to go the distance. Lucas Alexander, Jekka Seregi. What you got on that one?
Yeah, I like Alexander round 2 finish at plus 450 and round 3 finish at plus 850. I think Jekka could look okay in the first round, but I think as time goes on, he's just going to leave his hands down more and more. He's going to get hit more and more. It's going to wear on him. And I think Alexander capitalizes. Like Alexander's a pretty dangerous fighter. Good hands. I think he gets it done here later to middle of the fight.
Yeah, I took Alexander by decision plus 275 for a quarter of a unit. I mean, just based off of his wins, 5 of them come by decision. And just based on this fight too, like Jekka, the only way that Alexander's losing is he's getting subbed. Jekka's not a big submission threat. And I think he could make this fight closer than the odds entail. So I think maybe it goes into a route where, it's 1-1 going into the third and he's just trying to win the third round. So I thought at plus 275, Alexander being that big of a favorite and considering he gets a lot of his wins by decision, plus 275 was worth it for 0.25 units for me. Lucy Pudilova, Eileen Perez. As I said earlier, the only thing I got in this one is Perez in a parlay, plus 101 with Brendan Allen for a unit. What you got?
Yeah, I took Perez on the money line -175 when it dipped there for a second, just because if you watch Pudilova, she doesn't have a lot of wins recently. The one thing she struggles with is like the physicality of fighters, and that's exactly what Perez is. And, regardless of what's going on with Perez's eye and being in the hospital, I think she was probably just getting fluids, whatever. I'm not too worried about it. I think she's more of a junkyard dog here. I think she'll hold her own, and I think she could at least get the decision win here. So I'm not big on Pudilova.
Yeah, I think Perez probably just muscles her up and
Yeah.
pulls off a win. So yeah, I think that's the right side. Nicholas Mata, Trey Ogden. I think we're both on Ogden here. I got Ogden money line +122 for a unit. I think, I mean, based on what Mata's shown in the UFC, like he's just gonna wing overhand rights or right hands, and I think Ogden knows that. I think he'll try to clinch him a lot. He's a veteran of the game. He's shown before that he can beat the odds. So I think at +122 is worth a shot there for me. So what you got?
Yeah, I took Trey Ogden on the money line as well earlier in the week. And my theory here is both guys are 1-2 in the UFC. You look at their wins. You got Mata, who beat Cameron Van Camp, who was awful, who went over to bare knuckle and got his ass kicked as well. And you got Trey Ogden, who beat Daniel Zellhuber, who is a highly touted prospect who just had a good win by submission. Like the guy's dangerous and a great striker. I think the only thing that Mata has going for him here is the power. And if you look at Trey Ogden's record, 22 fights, never been KO'd in any of his losses. He's tough. I think he's going to be way more durable and have a way better gas tank. And I think once Mata starts getting tired, you could see Trey Ogden start mixing in the wrestling. Like looking back at the regional, seeing Trey Ogden was pulling off submissions. The dude was getting takedowns. Just hasn't really shown that aggressiveness to get it there. But in this fight, being the bigger guy, better cardio, more durability, I think he's just going to wear on Mata as the fight goes on.
I like it. And then the first fight of the night, Charles Johnson, Rafael Estevam. This is one that I wanted to get invested in, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. I just completely laid off. What you got?
Yeah, I'm publicly on Charles Johnson here because if I don't take him and he wins, I'm going to be pissed at myself because it's almost like a system. You got guys coming off the contender series who haven't really been tested at all, who are grapplers, and I think if he tries to grapple, which he will with Charles Johnson, he's going to get takedowns in the first round. But Charles Johnson's fought in the Cody Durdens and guys like that, and they take him down. But what does he do? He pops right back up, and I think that's going to be frustrating to Estevam. I think after the first round, you're going to see Estevam start slowing down and Charles Johnson mix in that Muay Thai, go to the body, get him tired. And I also think he could find a late finish if Estevam, does tire out. Another thing, Estevam's coming in for his UFC debut. You're under the bright lights, biggest stage. Sometimes guys fold. We saw it with Daniel Zellhuber in his debut off the contender series. So, I'm taking him by second round finish at +1,400 or third round finish at +2,000 for a tenth of a unit on both of those. So nothing heavy there, and 1 unit on the money line.
We can move into the DFS plays. You got any out this week?
I do not. Nope.
Okay.
Not good at them enough yet.
I'll go over mine. First one we got on underdog +14.5 significant strikes for Paul Craig. Brendan Allen hasn't covered that in I think he's covered it in like one time out of the last 10 fights. I don't know. I mean, at that big a number, I thought it was too big, so I had to take it. And then I paired that with +1.5 takedowns for Brito. I think Brito can get takedowns of his own. JSP doesn't have the greatest takedown defense either, but I do think he probably gets him out of there early. So taking the plus there. That's 3x for a half unit. We got higher than 29.5 significant strikes for Allen, paired with higher than 38.5 significant strikes for Johnson. That one's on my Instagram. You can check out the explanation there. 3x for a half unit. Plus 13.5 significant strikes for Machado, based on him out striking his last guy by like 100 strikes, and Parkin just being willing to engage in a sparring match. I thought that was just too big of a number to take or not to take. So I took it. Higher than a half finish for Talbot, because that's like -160 on a lot of places. That's just too much value there. Paired those up, 3x for a half unit. Then we got the last underdog play, +6.5 significant strikes for Brito. He's got a good significant strike ratio, covered it in all of his fights. And then +4.5 significant strikes for Charles Johnson. Basically, Estevam, his only official stats is his contender series fight where he outstruck the dude like 46-2. So I think that's just a little bit inflated. Charles Johnson has covered this in every single one of his fights. So I think he should be able to do that here, especially if it goes later. He can start to rack it up. So that's 3x for a half unit there. Parlay play app. More than 60.5 significant strikes for Talbot. More than 35.5 significant strikes for Alexander. More than 47.5 significant strikes for Hooper. More than 40.5 significant strikes for Jose Johnson. Those are all fights that I think the number is just way too low. I think Hooper on the feet can rack up a ton of volume. Jose Johnson can rack up a ton of volume. Alexander, that one was shocking to see. I think he racks up a ton. Same with Talbot. Those are the first two are paired for 3x for a unit. Those are my two most confident. And then the second two are paired for 3x for a half unit. And then we add the three with 36.5 significant strikes for Parkin, the higher on that one. More than 1.5 takedowns for Hebas and more than 30.5 significant strikes for Allen. We're going with the all mores this week, which is always kind of a sweat, but I think it looks pretty good. So all 7 of those, 75x for 0.1 units. We swept it twice. We haven't hit the 75x yet. We hit a 40x and a 20x because we lost a fight or two on UFC 294 and UFC Brazil. So hopefully we don't get any cancellations and we could sweep that, hit the 75Xer, and we'll have a hell of a night. But that's pretty much it for UFC Vegas 82. We got prelims starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. So a little bit of an early start. Not super early, but compared to the normal 6 p.m. time or maybe even 3 p.m. time. We got 14 fights, so we're in for a lot. Don't get too high or too low. If it starts off really high, don't start doubling down. If it starts out low, don't start chasing. We got a ton of fights, so stay the course. And at the end of the night, I believe we'll be in the green because we've been doing that for a very long time here. So stay disciplined, and hopefully we can have a good night. You got any more, Matt, our last message before we head out of here?
I think you covered it. Yeah. 1 p.m. start where I'm at. Kind of weird during the day, but there's nothing else better to do on a Saturday. Let's win some money.
Let's do it. Good luck, everybody. Thank you all. Double leg.